Yo, what's up YouTube? Lightsaber Samurai here. I'm back again for another video, and I have been on an arcade kick lately. If you guys saw my recent video about the top 5 things in my game room, one of them was a Final Fight 1-Up arcade that I recently purchased, and I can't get enough of that thing. So much so that I've been going around trying to find ways to buy up arcade games or look for arcade compilations, that sort of thing. So recently, my retro video game store close by the house, it reopened, so I went in there to check it out, and lo and behold, I found this guy in here. This is the Super Retrocade by Retrobit. It was released a couple of years ago, and it features like 90 games on it. I think 60 of them are arcade ports and the other are home console ports of arcade games, but there's some heavy hitters like Capcom and Data East and things like that who put their stamp on it and got the games on this system. But is this worth buying? Let's talk about it. Okay, so let's get to unboxing this thing. First off, looking at the box, it is nicely packaged. It's got this little flip out door on the front of it here, and it's showing you some of the arcade classics in this, like Final Fight is in here, of course, Bad Dudes, Joe and Mac, R-Type, a bunch of other stuff in here, Mega Man 2, Double Dragon, Burger Time, 1942, and the like. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and unbox this thing. I'm terrible when it comes to unboxing, so I'm just going to get into it. Let's do it. Crap, I'm so bad at this. I don't have a knife or anything. Hold up, let me... Okay, just... Wait. Okay, no. Okay, wait. Everybody stand back here. Hold up. Alright. And one more on this side. Okay. Alright. I think maybe that did the trick. Alright. So we got it opened up here. We got this little plastic enclosure, and we've got our manual. There's the console itself right here. It's got not one, not three, but 2 controllers, which is nice. The power brick, I assume. And then is this an HDMI cord? That's nice. So it's HDMI out, so it's ready for the future. And that's basically the package. So, okay, now just talking about the console here. Again, this thing is tiny. If you look at the back here, it's got an HDMI cord. It looks like you've still got AV out. The power adapter, and cool enough, it's got an SD card slot. So I'm pretty sure this thing can be hacked, and you can put a bunch of other ROMs on here, which is good news because I will be doing that in the near future. And yeah, so that's cool. Little console. I'm not really sure what the design is supposed to be based on. It's kind of a weird, just red and white color scheme. Taking a look at the controller here, it's a very standard controller design. It seems to fit okay in the hand. It feels a little thin, and of course this thing is super duper light and feels kind of plasticky. Sorry. The buttons feel okay though, and the D-pad feels alright. It's a little slippery. But yeah, so-so on the controllers. It would be cool if you could put like a USB joystick in this thing. I'm looking at the front here, and those are just standard USB ports on the front of the controller. So wouldn't that be swell if I can take one of my USB arcade sticks and pop in here and use it like that for that more authentic experience. Other than that, that's about it, man. Like, I'm tired of this. Let's go over and plug this thing in, and we'll see what we got inside. Alright, and here we go, opening up the menu here. And I do enjoy that this lineup does have a nice variety in it. I've got everything from shooter games to platformers, beat 'em ups, even a few fighting games, and that's really nice. As I mentioned before, it is a combination of arcade titles and console titles, but the majority are arcade. Of the 90, I would say about 60 to 65 of them are the arcade versions. And some of the games, they will have the arcade and the console version, like Bionic Commando and some things like that. So let's hop in here and let's take a look at the first game, which is going to be Boogie Wings. Alrighty, here the first game that we have on the list is Boogie Wings by Data East, and man, this one is a game that a lot of people tout as being one of the best side-scrolling shooters of all time. They talk about how it's a total hidden gem on the arcade scene, and a lot of people are generally really sad that it didn't get an arcade release, which, looking at it here, it's a nice looking game and the graphics look pretty good, but this isn't anything that the Genesis couldn't do, or even the Super Nintendo. So I'm not really sure why it didn't get a port, but this does have a few unique qualities about it. First is the aesthetic. You've got the old school biplane. You see, I just fell out of my plane there, and that's one of the cool things about it. When your plane gets destroyed, actually, instead of dying, you will fall out of the plane, and there you will go running along the surface of the level, and it becomes a running gun at that point until you're hit again. While you're running and gunning on the ground, you can also commandeer other vehicles. They got everything in here from horses to tanks to other planes and such, and so this is a really unique game in its aesthetics, and the music has got a cool ragtime soundtrack in a lot of the menus. You've also got that little grappling hook back there that you can use to pick up certain enemies and vehicles and use those against the enemies. So yeah, this is the first game we're taking a look at, and I'm definitely glad that it made the cut. Alright, they've got Final Fight here, and even Mighty Final Fight, but taking a look at the original arcade classic here. As you guys know, I picked this up just recently when I got that arcade one up, the Final Fight one, and I've been loving it on that. But this is cool too. Playing it with the controller also is a really nice experience, although unfortunately this isn't the best controller in the world. I wish that they kind of just worked a little more on the design of the controller, but that's fine. It seems to be able to take a variety of third-party controllers, so I should be able to find a good replacement soon. But looking at it again, this is another one. The emulation seems to be perfect on it, and it's a lot of fun to play. Retrobit also has you covered on the console side of things, and here's the fantastic Mega Man 2. Mega Man 3 is also on here also for the Super Nintendo, and both of these are really good, really fun, and really hard platforming games. But I like that they included that again. It only helps the variety, as there's not a lot of platforming arcade games out there, but when you stick in some of the best 8-bit platformers in there, then you know, you're in pretty good shape here. So here's me sucking it up in Mega Man, playing Quick Man stage, and again, I have no problems with the emulation, the sound, or the look of it. It's not running slow. I'm not noticing any lag or anything like that. Part of the reason why I'm sucking, and not to make excuses, but again though, the controller, I'm not a huge fan of the default controllers that come with this. Again, I am happy that they added those and that they gave us 2 of them, as a lot of these are 2-player games, but man, like, it just doesn't feel that great in the hands to play. Sticking with platformers, Rocky Rodent is another platforming game by the team that actually brought us Rocket Knight Adventures on the Genesis, and this, I believe, was an exclusive on the Super Nintendo. And this one is another hidden gem that a lot of people like to cite when they're talking about Super Nintendo hidden gems, and this is a really interesting platformer here. I'm stuck trying to figure out this hair mechanic, and it got me a few times. But yeah, this is a fantastic game in its own right. It reminds me of Kid Chameleon, where he has the different types of helmets that gives him a bunch of different superpowers and abilities, and that's pretty much what you're doing here. You'll get a multitude of hairstyles, and each hairstyle will grant you a different ability. As far as like this one here, you can stick on the ceilings, and there's other hairstyles that'll give you projectile attacks and things like that. And so this one, I mean, the graphics, just the overall style of it, it looks good. And again, there's no problems with the emulation playing it that I noticed on this. So yeah, this is another one that I'm happy made the list. This is a game that I didn't really get to play back in the day, and so it's cool that it's here for me to try. Okay, and lastly, let's take a look at Mercs here on the arcade. They've got Mercs and Mercs 2, and they have the arcade and the console versions on this as well, I think. And this is a really cool run and gun that plays a lot like Commando on the regular NES. And this is another game that I didn't get a chance to play back in the day. And this one seems pretty cool. It reminds me of, like I said, Commando, or what's the Neo Geo one? Shock Troopers on the Neo Geo. But not as cool as Shock Troopers so far from what I play. But you get a life bar, and that's cool. I'm not a fan of games that, you know, you die in one hit. So this is cool. You seem to get a bunch of different weapons and everything. And yeah, like I said, standard fare. Doesn't seem to do anything that's really blowing my mind as of yet that I can see, but it looks pretty good and plays pretty well, if not a little bit slow compared to other games like Shock Troopers and even like Contra and stuff like that I played on the side-scrolling tip. But yeah, overall, this is a really good device. It's got a really cool variety of games on it. Like I said, 90, even if you're not going to add ROMs, which you can easily do with an SD card, even if you're not the one to get into that, 90 games is definitely enough games to play to keep you entertained. Like I said, the variety on this is fantastic, and I'm glad I picked this up.
Okay, so that's all I got for you, but let's talk about it in the comments section below. Questions, comments, concerns, threats. What do you guys think about the Super Retrocade? Do you own one already? Is this something you think about purchasing? Let's talk about it down below. If you like this content, please go ahead and give me that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so already. You'll be glad you did. I do believe that's all I got for you. Lightsaber Samurai out, and peace.